So today we're going to showcase one of our favorite bread courses, which is our Mosbolletjies, traditional South African harvest style bread. It's something that showcases a lot of flavor and also a lot of stuff that comes from this state. We're just going to add little bits and bobs and kind of just tweak it so it makes it our own style, but essentially it's one of our old traditional breads from South Africa, Cape Town, and the winelands area. So I suppose one of the defining characteristics of the bread is what we did the end of last season. So the grapes that weren't suitable for the winemaking process, we kind of gathered a few and then created our own wine must, which is almost like our starter. So it's not in the traditional sense, we've just made our own type of it. We've taken them and I've just mixed it with a traditional wine yeast activator, and that becomes the base of our bread as well. So it not adds impart flavor, but it's also acting as part of the yeast as well. So it's very important that we use that as part of the South African tradition. And then next we're going to add our spice mix, which is the traditional part of the bread. So we've got ground aniseed, and we also added a touch of fennel seed as well. We haven't ground it super fine, we keep it a little bit of texture, and it helps us imparting the flavor in the bread, as well as giving it a little more fiber. Alright, so bread's done now. I'm going to just take it out of the mixer, and then we're going to rest the dough. Right, so we're just going to get all the dough together, and then we normally rest this overnight in the fridge, just to kind of really settle back down, and then just develop a little bit more flavor. The bread itself has got quite a fine texture, so having it slightly wet just gives us a bit more of a control on that. This is the dough that we've rested now overnight, so you'll see it's got, because we made it quite wet, it's still fairly firm now, so as it ages, it does firm up in the fridge quite a bit. So if we made it like as a perfect consistency now, we'd find that the next day the dough is actually too dry. And we're going to roll these out into just cut these up into smaller portions and then roll them into smaller balls. We find it's best to do this while it's cold, and also no additional flour, so we kind of just use an oil base on our countertops. And we're just going to roll these into tighter balls. How many do we do per portion? So we do 5 of these per bowl. Right, so we're just going to pack them nice and evenly and tight as possible, but still allowing enough even room for it to prove up, because we do want it to come up above the line of the pot. Right, so the next step now is this. The bread is perfectly proved and ready to go in the oven, so I'm just going to give it a very light glaze with some whole egg and a tiny bit of milk. And we're just going to very gently rub the tops, just trying not to puncture any of the bread. Right, so for the first bake, we're going to put it in for 180 at about fan 3 and just keep it going for 10 minutes. And then after that, we're going to glaze it on a high temperature. So it's just honey from the estate that we ferment with garlic for about 3 weeks. And we're just going to glaze the top of that with this. And then we're going to add it back to the oven at a higher temp. So we're going to finish the bread one more time with a little bit more honey. Make sure all that flavor's packed in there. And then we're going to spread the seeds on top. So these are just a mixture of our wild seeds that we foraged at the end of last season. So we got, I think it's a few nettle seeds, dock seeds, and anything we could find that was kind of giving off seed that's edible at the end of last summer. These are just some of the soft herbs from the garden downstairs. And this forms the base of our herbed goat's butter that we serve with the bread course. Right, and then we just combine those herbs with our local South Downs butter. We keep it unsalted so that we can also just play with the flavors as we need. We use the packer jet to get it super fine so we can incorporate the whole herb inside the butter without having any pieces left. So we're just going to get our stamp really nice and cold in the liquid nitrogen. Okay, so this is the finished product of the butters. So we've just set the herb goat's butter, and then just to highlight it a little bit more and showcase the gardens in the spring, we're just going to finish it off with various flowers that I've got from the gardens and from one of our suppliers who also up the road. Right, so these are our preserved kumquats. Well, we blanch them 3 times and then we cook them in a mixture of brandy, vanilla, and then sugar stock. We cook them for about 4 hours on really low, and just kind of maximize the flavor on that. It's a very close thing to me. I used to grow these on the farm when I was younger. We used to make lots of cool things with them. So for us to have it on the menu, it's kind of a little nod to growing up and childhood back in South Africa. So we take the kumquats. Once they're cooked, the skin is still very much intact, but we're just pushing out the juicy flesh from the inside and the pips. So the skin itself, we're going to chiffonade, and that is just going to have the best texture, but we also wanted to have the middles, which has, I suppose, the most flavor in. So we're going to put that through a drum sieve, kind of get all that flesh but leave behind all the pips, and then we're just going to combine it all back together at the end. And then just a mixture of spices, very similar to Christmas type spices, I guess. So we're just adding some of the preserved liquid from the kumquats, so very heavy in vanilla, a little bit of brandy, and just kind of showcase the syrup more. Just going to bring this back to the heat and cook it for about 10 minutes, and I'll just reactivate all the additions that we added back into the preserve. Alright, so this is our kumquat acha preserve, and we're just going to just spoon this on quickly, just kind of get it looking a bit better. We're just going to add the butter now to the fire and melt it down so we get all the fumes from the wood burning through. Alright, so this is our bread course currently on the menu at Interlude. It's our traditional South African bread called Mosbolletjies. On the side of that we've got our herbed goat's butter, so soft herbs from the garden downstairs, and just finished off with bits of spring. And our kumquat acha, which is a Cape Malay style chutney, very mild in curry but very tart and sour at the same time. Traditionally eaten this with open fire cooking, so what we call a braai back home, what we call a barbecue now that we're in the UK. So we kind of wanted to replicate that with this over here. So this is our fire roasted butter. We home culture the butter, get it really nice and tart and sour. And I'm going to add to that biltong spices, a shallot reduction cooked in red wine, Madeira, a little bit of raspberry vinaigrette, some smoked mushroom garum from our lab downstairs, and some fresh herbs again from the garden just to soften it all up. And that's everything for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed what we've created for you. If you've enjoyed this, please go and watch the full interview, which is now in your bottom right-hand corner.